wrap up this week. I promise I'll go quick. I'll skip some things, but I won't skip the important things. We're going to wrap up our series, RPM. We've been talking about relationships. We've been talking about marriage. Man, we're going to end it today. No more talk the rest of the year about relationships or marriage. We're going to go another direction. But I felt like this would be an appropriate message for us. And so I titled this message, Enjoy the Ride. Enjoy the ride. I want to do something real quick. Will you guys play along with me? I'll try not to embarrass anybody. If you're in this place and you have a driver's license, not a fake ID, don't be standing up, you have a fake ID, right? If you're in this place and you have a driver's license, would you stand? Come on. Everybody? Pretty much everybody has a driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, I'm not going to ask you why you don't have a driver's license, okay? I want you to stay standing. I want you to stay standing if you have received a speeding ticket in the last 10 years. If you have received a speeding ticket in the last 10 years, stay standing, okay? Oh, I'm finding out a little bit about some people. I want you to, okay, now, if you've received one in the last 5 years, stay standing. Stay standing. The last 5 years. We got a married couple over here, a bunch of speeders. 5 years. Okay, 1 year. If you've received a speeding ticket in the last year. In the last year. Okay. What about the last month? Okay, so we had a few that were in the last year. You know, it's really hard to enjoy the ride with a speeding ticket, isn't it? We were traveling the other day coming back from Kansas City, and I was humming right along, right? I noticed a vehicle up in front of me that was driving the speed limit. Anytime you recognize a vehicle driving the speed limit, it was dark, right? I knew what it was, and so as I approached, I immediately had to slow down to 65 miles an hour. So it was hard to enjoy the ride the rest of the way home. You know, we talked last week a little bit about a destination. I want your marriage to go somewhere, right? I want your marriage to cross the finish line. You need to enjoy the ride as you go. But it takes a lot of effort in taking a trip, right? There's money, there's planning, there's everything that happens in between. And the same is true for our marriage. Marriage, relationships take work, right? Can I get an amen? Amen. All right, they take work. You got to put the work in. Somebody amen that really hard. But I want us to picture today, I want you to picture today that you're on a road trip with your spouse, because there's just something that hits a little bit different when you're in the car with your spouse that's different than flying. So I want you to picture yourself taking a road trip with your spouse. I'll make it even better. There's no kids in the back, right? It's just you and your spouse, and you are getting ready to take a trip of hundreds of miles, right? You're getting ready to take this big trip, long trip. You know, some of the things that I need personally to enjoy a long car ride, it's pretty simple. I need, some sunglasses, I need some coffee, and I need sunflower seeds. If my wife was here, it'd be similar, right? She needs coffee, she needs sunglasses, and she just needs a fully charged battery for her phone, right? That will get her a long way. And when her and I travel, I don't let Kelly drive, especially at night, because Kelly doesn't see well at night. So if you're ever with her in a car at night, don't let her drive. She occasionally does drive, and I do let her drive some, but I choose to drive because I like to be in control, and I don't like the way she drives. So I usually take the reins when it comes to that. But we were listening to something, I think it was at the XO conference the other day, and we were listening about, he was talking about 4 different kinds of drivers. There's 4 different kinds of drivers on the road. The first one is a slow driver. I would identify as a slow driver, right? It's the speed limit when it says 20 out here on the square. You know, everybody says 20. You go 20, right? When it says 35, you go 35. That's just kind of how I am. There's a wiggle room for me of about 5 miles per hour after that, okay? It's a slow driver. Second one is a fast driver. They're always looking to pass. I'm in between slow and fast. I can hit on the fast if it's not my car. You know, I'm taking it. A fast driver, right, when that says 20, they're right on your bumper, right? They don't understand the speed limit. They're a fast driver, right? Then there's the aggressive driver, right? They're going to let you know about it. They're the, right? They're this people or the, right? Those are the aggressive type of drivers. They will let you know about it. And I thought what was funny was the last type of driver is it's the party drivers. They're distracted. They're more about the party than driving, right? They're the ones that are watching videos on their, right, on their phone. They're putting on their makeup as they're driving. They are more interested in the party that's going on in their car than actually driving. Anybody in here a party driver? So I can look out for you on the, nobody's going to admit it. No matter how or who is driving, we need to enjoy the ride. The more we travel together, the better the journey gets. And it's not always about the destination, it's how you get there. So the big point today that I want you to understand as we wrap this up is we need to enjoy the ride with each other. There's 4 things to remember when taking a road trip. I want to read a passage real quick, and then we'll jump into those 4 points quickly. It reads this in Ephesians 5:22 through 33. I like the Message version. It reads this: Wives, understand and support your husbands in ways that show your support for Christ. The husband provides leadership to his wife in the way Christ does to his church, not by domineering, but by cherishing. So just as the church submits to Christ as he exercises such leaderships, wives should likewise submit to their husbands. This next verse I read a lot when I do weddings. It says, husbands, go all out in your love for your wives, exactly as Christ did for the church. A love marked by giving, not getting. I want you to remember that, giving, not getting. Christ's love makes the church whole. His words evoke her beauty. Everything he does and says is designed to bring the best out of her, dressing her in dazzling white silk, radiant with holiness. And that is how husbands ought to love their wives. They're really doing themselves a favor since they're already one in marriage. No one abuses his own body, does he? No, he feeds and pampers it. That's how Christ treats us, the church, since we are part of his body. And this is why a man leaves a father and mother and cherishes his wife. No longer 2, but they become one flesh. This is a huge mystery, even a mystery back then. It's a huge mystery, and I don't pretend to understand it all. What is clearest to me is the way Christ treats the church. This provides a good picture of how each husband is to treat his wife, loving himself and loving her, and how each wife is to honor her husband. Quickly, 4 things. First one is you got to keep gas in the tank. You got to keep gas in the tank. I think you know where this is going, right? Opposites attract. There's 2 types of people in this world. People who put gas in their tank, people who don't put gas in their tank, right? Never fails. And if Kelly was sitting here, she would smile. Every time I get in her car, it's on empty. Frustrates me. What frustrates me even more is when it's orange, right? Because it's orange. I'm like, you've known about this empty for a long time, and this is a deliberate orange. There's 2 types of people, right? Keep their gas tank full, and they keep their gas tank empty. I want to remind you this morning to keep your love tank full. Husbands, go all out in your love for your wife. Husbands, fill that empty tank up. There's no gas, there's no destination, there's no love, there's no marriage. You have to use the right type of fuel. I'm going to hurry through some of this, guys. You have to use the right type of fuel. Don't use counterfeit love. It will harm a relationship. And I think what counterfeit love is, it looks the same, right? Sometimes the nozzles at the gas pumps look the same, but they're two different types of gas. One of them is selfishness, or Paul tells us it's getting. The other is servant, that is giving. They're at the same pump, they look the same, but one will harm your relationship. Selfishness serves my needs. This is the getting. Giving serves my spouse's need. What are you doing to show your spouse you love them? Identify those things and do those things. But how many of you know sometimes this is easily said than done? Because I'm constantly battling my selfish desires to give myself what I want. It's a counterfeit love, when really I should be putting gas in my spouse's tank, right? I'm giving, I'm serving my spouse. What do they tell you when winter weather approaches, right? You should fill your gas tank up, right? I remember when the ice storm came, that was one of the only ways we kept warm, right? We'd hop in the van, we'd turn the van on, and we'd stay warm for a while. We'd get out of the van, and winter weather, they tell you, fill your gas tank up in case you find yourself on the roadside in a bad storm. I want to encourage you in your marriage, when you find yourself on the roadside, when you find yourself in a storm, that it's that gas tank full of love that will keep you going. Keep gassing your tank. Second one is this. You got to know where you're going, right? Both parties of a relationship can have different destinations in mind. I'm a mountain guy. I'm a secluded kind of guy. My wife is a beach person. She loves the sun. She loves the hot. She loves the beach. But we have to, at some point, agree on a destination. Some of the times when I let Kelly drive, when she volunteers to drive, I find myself asking her questions like this. Babe, where are you going? Where are you? Why? Why are you going that way? But I've learned that there's more than one way to get there, and some roads are better than others. We can take the highway, right? We can get there in a hurry. Or we can take the dirt road or the back roads, and we can enjoy the ride. We can enjoy the scenery with each other. We can slow down. When it comes to a marriage, the where is your vision, right? Vision is what we see. It's a picture of a preferred future. Where will your marriage be in 1 year? Where will it be in 10 years, 25 years, 50 years? For some of you, 75 years. Where will your marriage be? Where are you going? Proverbs 29:18 says, when people don't accept divine guidance or vision, they run wild. But whoever obeys the law is joyful. Having divine guidance helps us make the right decisions. There's road signs, there's speed limits for a purpose. So the question we should be asking is, God, where do you want me and my spouse to go? Where is this relationship going? You know, we can have great plans for ourselves, But if our plans aren't God's plans, they're no plans. You know, we can have great plans for ourselves, right? But if they're not God's plans for our relationship, they're no plans. You're not going anywhere. You're driving in a circle. Third one is this: agree on the route. Agree on the route. I'm a firm believer GPS is wrong. I'm always right. Right? You remember the day, and some of you will remember this, some of you won't. You guys remember maps? You remember you'd pull out from under your seat this big old book. It's like this big. It had every state in there, right? And you just unfold these maps everywhere, and they take you somewhere. Do you guys remember those? Or do you remember the day when you didn't have GPS, you didn't have, what was it, TomTom or whatever it was? You just take off, right? You just go somewhere, and you were just, I'm just going to look for the road sign, right? And I'm going to take this exit, I'm going to take this exit, and it's going to get me where I need to go. I prefer both. I like to look at a map before I leave, as well as trusting sometimes the GPS. And I'm also a noticer. I notice things where Kelly isn't much of a noticer, so she gets kind of turned around sometimes. And I'll even have to admit that sometimes we find ourselves fighting in the car, right? She likes to tell me how to drive, right? And she does this thing, and I'm not saying it's a woman thing, but she goes, right? Out of nowhere. I'm not perfect in my driving, right? I've done some silly things, but she'll, and then she'll put her hand across my chest like it's going to save my life from this, right? We have our moments in the car. I'm a firm believer in two things, right? This is just a side note. What happens in the car stays in the car, right? I don't think God sees what happens in the car. And what happens at night. If you wake me up from the dead of night, I might say something, right? Those things don't count. A couple things that don't count. We have our moments where we fight in the car. But even though we argue on a road trip, we never drive separately. Even though we argue and we have fights, we never go our own way. We always agree on the route, and it's always involved a third party. It's either been a GPS or a map. It reads this in Ecclesiastes 4:9-12. I like this. I think this is for everybody. 2 people are better off than one, for they can help each other succeed. Right? If one person falls, the other can reach out and help. But someone who falls alone is in real trouble. Man, I think this is for the person maybe that's not married. Maybe you've been divorced. Maybe you're trying to discover who you are, work through some of your things. Listen, I just want to remind you that 2 is better than 1, right? God is finding that person for you and your relationship. You help each other out. Likewise, 2 people lying close together can keep each other warm. But how can one be warm alone? A person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. But 2, I want you to look at this. 2 can stand back to back together and conquer. But 3 is even better. A triple braided cord is not easily broken. Husbands, wives, you can stand back to back and conquer. You are strong together. You can do a lot of things together. Nothing's going to sneak up behind you when you're back to back. But when you add in that triple braided cord, you're not easily broken. I just want to remind you, when you're agreeing on the route, that triple braided cord is Jesus. When we intertwine him in the 2 of us, we are not easily broken. And let me just remind you that he decides the route. He's the third party that brings completeness and strength to your marriage. He never lies. He never gets lost, and he always knows where to go because he's been there before, and he knows what's best for you too. I'll close with this quickly. Fourth one is this: stay alert. Stay alert. It wasn't too long ago, maybe a year ago now, I had Asher in the car with me, and most of you can probably identify with this story. I was driving, I think must have been to school, to take him to school or something, but we were traveling a road. It was a narrow road. I was in my slow driver mode, so I was kind of really going the speed limit. It was deer season. And all of a sudden, like all of these thoughts, if you guys have ever hit something in a car, done so, like all of these thoughts just go through your mind in like a split second. And so I see in front of me a deer who has just missed my truck. It's not even my truck, it's my work truck. So I'm freaking out a little bit, right? This deer had just passed my truck. So you know what I'm thinking? I'm good. I just missed this deer. I'm good. And at that moment, bam, popped this deer, right? The deer was fine. Deer got up, ran away, for all you that were worried. But I thought I was in the clear. Even though you are extremely careful and you're extremely cautious in your driving, do you know that you can still hit something? I was going the speed limit. I was buckled up. I was paying attention to the road, and I still hit something. I want to wrap this series up with this. Even in your marriage, you can be doing all the right things and still run into problems. How many have been married long enough to say, yep, right? You can do all the right things, problems still come. Death comes, loss, career change, children, right? You can put yourself in an extremely careful situation. Cross all your T's, dot all your I's. Your marriage will still have problems. Okay? And I actually think that's a good thing. I think when your marriage has problems, you know you're on the right path. If my marriage didn't have problems, I'm doing something wrong. Right? John 16:33 says this. Jesus says this. Here on earth you will have many. Everybody say many. Jesus says you'll have many trials and sorrows. But take heart. I have overcome the world. You know, I think this is for the individual, but I think it also applies for us as we close this book. Jesus is saying, on your trip, on your journey, as you're enjoying the ride, you will run into things. You will have sorrows. Some will be big, some will be small. But he reminds us, hey, remember this, guys. I've overcome them all. I've overcome them all. So as long as we take that cord, that triple braided cord, and we cling to each other, and we cling to our relationship with Jesus, we'll stay strong. We'll finish the ride. We're going to finish the ride. And we're not just going to finish it, we're going to enjoy the ride. Would you stand with me?